30 seconds over. So I'm going to ask the Secretary to submit an answer to you in writing. Thank you. Mr. Good, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Secretary Cardona, for being with us today. Mr. Secretary, do you think it's a person's responsibility to pay their own student loans?
I'm sorry, can you repeat the question?
Do you think it's a person's responsibility to pay their own student loans?
I do believe students who take out loans should pay loans.
They should pay them back. Thank you. And what if it's hard or if it's difficult to pay it?
Many of the loans that we're providing relief for are loans that folks are eligible for.
Well, we've long had relief in place that allowed folks in difficult financial situations or reduced income to give them some relief of paying their student loans. So what if somebody just doesn't want to pay their student loan or wishes they didn't have a student loan? They should still pay for it.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. That's all I'm looking for. They believe they should pay for it. And now, do you understand how federal spending is paid? So federal spending, how is that paid for?
The work that we're doing to
what I'm asking is, do you understand how federal spending is ultimately paid for? And it's not a trick question, it's a simple question.
No,
go ahead
but
and answer it
I
if
wanted
you know
to just kind of go back to the...
No, I'd like to know if you know how federal spending is paid for ultimately.
Yes.
How is it paid for?
I'm here to answer questions about
who pays for federal spending?
Yeah, taxpayers.
Okay, taxpayers pay for spending, exactly. Whether it's higher taxes or lower purchasing power from Bidenflation or Biden's higher interest rates, they have diminished purchasing power as they suffer under inflation as a result of federal spending. I appreciate you confirming that. So student loan debt, you would say, is legitimate. It's legitimate debt, correct?
The work that we're doing to address...
Now, is student loan debt legitimate? Is it legitimate debt? Or is it illegitimate somehow and it's not...
When I talk to students who have been defrauded by...
Now, what I'm asking, is student loan debt legitimate? In other words, I would presume you'd say a mortgage loan is legitimate, a car loan is legitimate, a personal loan or a credit card is legitimate debt. You would presume those are legitimate debt.
Yeah, I'd love to communicate how we're helping your constituents.
So when someone invests in themselves and borrows for education, is that illegitimate debt or is it legitimate debt that should be paid for by the person who borrows it? Is there something illegitimate about student loan debt?
The work that we're doing to provide
Okay, I'm just going to say that you're not going to say, so you're agreeing that it's not illegitimate debt. So do you think we should continue to make student loans when you and the administration are trying to transfer all the debt to the taxpayers with the latest scheme that's been estimated to be going to cost maybe even $750 billion? So should we continue to make student loans if we're not going to ask folks to pay the loans? Should we instead reclassify them as taxpayer-provided gifts, or should we continue to make student loans?
Sure. The 75,300 constituents you serve wouldn't call it a scheme. They would call it a lifeline.
So should we continue to make student loans that we're not going to ask people to pay back, or should we go to taxpayer-provided education gifts?
So I understand your line of questioning, sir, and if I can get an answer out.
What I'd like to know is, should we keep making student loans if we're not going to ask people to pay back their student loans?
We are improving the repayment process through the SAVE plan so people can be successful paying their loans.
Is there any reason, if I may take that people who go to the most so-called elite universities, the ones with the pro-Hamas protests on their campuses right now, should students that go to those universities, which tend to be the elite because they're very expensive, my children could not, and I certainly could not afford to go to a school like that. It would have been a waste of money, I would submit. But those who go to those schools and can make up to $125,000 individually, $250,000 as a family, based on the previous original student loan transfer scheme, should others who didn't go to college, who worked their way through college, who tried not to incur student loan debt or paid off their student loan debt, should they have to pay student loan debt for those from those elite schools making above average incomes?
People are paying their loans back, sir.
So other people shouldn't pay those student loan debt for them?
That's not what I said. People are paying their loans back. The return to repayment is underway. I'd be happy to have my staff share with you how...
Now, I'm going to get one last question here. Thank you, sir. In February, the department published a draft proposal that lists 16 different indicators that the Secretary yourself will use to determine whether a borrower is in economic hardship and therefore able to have his or her loan balance paid or really transferred to the taxpayers. However, it notes that the borrowers can have their debt canceled, again, transferred to the taxpayer actually, based on any other indicators of hardship identified by yourself as Secretary. Is that correct?
We have over 1 million people
Is it
going
correct
into
that it allows for you to decide any reason why someone can have their debt canceled, any other indicator of hardship? Is that correct or not correct?
we are fixing a broken system
So
that
what
requires...
constitutional authority do you have to unilaterally decide whether or not someone should pay their student loan debt or whether taxpayers should pay that?
I would welcome to answer if it's not as simple as you're asking it. So if you allow me to answer, you might get the answer you're looking for.
Madam Chair, my time has expired, so I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Good. Ms.